Her mind, like her memory, was dark and empty. And yet, once she gazed long and hard at the room, she felt something peculiar rise up from the recesses of her psyche. Like a surge of water, some thing washed into her head. What was this feeling? She could barely recognize nor comprehend it, but it was happening. And quite frankly, it was scaring her. Without warning, her vision suddenly became flooded with whiteness. What's going on? "Welcome to the gala," a powerful yet gentle female voice called out in greeting. "You are all looking simply delightful this evening." "Thank you so much, Princess. I'm truly flattered, really," a smaller, more elegantly feminine voice said in reply. The mare still couldn't see anything. It was as if she was in a white void, with those echoed voices ringing across the expanse. Why did they sound so familiar? Princess? Who were these ponies? "You're very welcome, Miss Rarity. I presume it was you who designed these delightful gowns?" "Yes, yes, yes. Aren't they so amazing?" Whoa, sounds like some ponies had a little too much sugar lately. "Calm down, Pinkie Pie. We know that they're totally awesome." "Ooh, I know, right? You were totally into it, Rainbow Dash. You squealed with joy so much." "Hey, I just thought they were cool is all." "All right, settle down, girls." The mayor perked up at the voice that just spoke. "We should probably get going, Princess Celestia. We've decided that we'll stick together tonight." That voice. Is that... No, it can't. Is that me? Very well, then. I can see that you girls are having your evening planned, so please, go ahead and enjoy yourselves. The Grand Galloping Gala waits. Hey, maybe tonight really will be our best night ever. It's gonna be fantastic-tastical. Sure it will, Pinky. Sure it will. The white light soon faded, as did the echo of the voices. Panting, as if she had somehow run a marathon standing still, the mare fell backwards onto her haunches and spent 2 minutes staring ahead blankly into the room. Her mind raced to comprehend what just occurred to her. The voices, the names she heard, and more importantly, her own voice mixed into that of the cacophony of audio. Every single word spoken, it seemed so familiar. So frustratingly familiar. She just couldn't recall the full connection. Ugh. Rarity, Pinkie Pie, Rainbow Dash, Princess Celestia. All of these names, however peculiar they were, must have meant something. But what? What? And what about the others that spoke? What were their names? The mare let out a frustrated grunt as she clutched her temples and slammed her head against the floor. Great. Now her headache was back. Plus, she dropped the can of those red crystals again. But she didn't care. She just wanted to get out of there. That's when she remembered exactly where she was. As she before realized, it was quite a large open room. Skylights adorned the ceiling, and a very gaudy-looking chandelier hung there as well. In the center of the room, a grand marble staircase ascended and split 2 ways, each leading to an east and right wing of the upper levels. There were 4 doors on the bottom level. One she just came out of, 2 were on the direct opposite sides of the room, and one very large gate was positioned at what must have been the front of the chamber. That gate. Maybe, just maybe, it might be the way out. The mare took her chances. Getting off the floor, she trotted slowly across the hall towards the imposing door. It had to have been at least 5 times her height. Maybe more, she thought. As she approached the giant double doors, she started to reach out with her hoof towards the handles. She could already feel a gentle breeze seep through the crack through the center of the door. All it would take would be a simple, maybe rather hard, push, and she would be outside. However, her assumptions were quickly foiled when the stony tiles, and for that matter the entire chamber, began to tremble and shake. What the hell? To her horror, the entire room around her was trembling. Dust fell from the ceiling in clouds, and several loose tiles and stones fell loose and clattered to the floor with a horrible crash. The mare had to jerk her hoof back and jump away from the door to avoid a falling chunk, lest it cave in her skull. She couldn't believe it. Was it an earthquake? But earthquakes don't happen because of a very loud noise. Wait just a moment. Where was that noise even coming from? It sounded quite vaguely like a distant roar. And that wasn't the end of it. Another noise demanded the unicorn's attention. She turned to look towards the door, and gasped with a shock. With the disgusting, squelching sound of flesh being stretched and squashed, a web of red organic essence began to cover the entire door from top to bottom. Within seconds, the entire mass of goop had formed a complicated, stringy mesh that blocked off the entire gate. And worst of all, it seemed alive. The web of flesh would twitch and spasm in places, and a caustic brown fluid leaked from various areas. The unicorn fought back the urge to heave, and she took several steps away from the ghastly wall of unknown substance. Where did that thing come from? What is it? She found herself asking out loud. The empty room had chosen not to reply, as the earthquake had by this point subsided. It was, to put it bluntly, quite nauseating to look at. And the smell was none too pleasant either. But this mess was in her way to freedom, so she at least had to see if it would be a hindrance. She slowly walked towards the slime-like organic compound. She raised a hoof towards it. Just a small touch, she told herself. Hopefully, she could scrape it aside or something. When her hoof finally made contact, it felt as much as she could expect it. That is, it was extremely moist and slimy. However, it was still quite firm. There would be no way she could remove all this stuff in short order. She sighed and pulled her hoof away, only to discover that a smearing of the organic substance had gotten all over it. "Oh, yeah, get off!" she wailed, furiously scraping the slime off her hoof. It felt as though it was clinging directly to it, but she managed to get the chunks of fleshy matter off. That was so disgusting. It felt like it was crawling all over me. As if she needed any more reason to suspect it was alive. This stuff was sticky. Once it grabbed on, it didn't want to let go easily. Once she was able to shake off the horrid substance, the mare backed away from the door again. Scratch one escape route. It was almost as if the castle didn't want her to leave, and cast a net over the door to stop her. Wait, what? No, that couldn't be possible. It's too implausible to make sense. But then again, how much more likely is it that a roar from afar and a wall of flesh come out of nowhere? I don't like this. Whether she liked it or not, the purple unicorn was going to have to find another way out of this place. If only there was a better place to start. The grand staircase, which might have looked quite lovely in the right light, just looked extremely ominous now. The two doorways on the right side of the chamber begged attention, but they would most likely lead to dark places as well. So, where to start? Other than the almost painful feeling of familiarity with this place, she had no idea where each passage would lead. The door she just came out of, on the hall's left side, was out of the question. So, she chose the closest door on the right side. As she approached the door, she could make out a nameplate directly adjacent to the doorway. Old Archives. Maybe that's where they store stuff. I wonder if there would even be a way out through there. The other doorway, she noticed, had a similar sign, but this one read Winery. Winery? Where they make, wine? I think that's it. Well, I am feeling a bit thirsty. She hadn't thought of it until now, but she was rather parched, and maybe a slight bit peckish as well. The mare trotted up to the door and placed a hoof on it. For a moment she was petrified with the image of more of these fleshy things covering this door as well, but thankfully those fears were unfounded. She gave a push, and it wouldn't budge. Maybe it just needs a little more oomph, she thought, and braced herself against the door and heaved. Still, it barely moved. That's when she noticed a metal padlock securing the door shut. Locked? That's just great. Sighing with defeat, the mare glumly walked back to the old archives door and tried opening that one. Mercifully, it swung inward, with barely a hoof tap. As she looked inside, she noticed that the hallway within was, as fortune would have it, almost fully lit with torches. Putting on a face of confidence, the unicorn strode inside the doorway and pulled the door shut behind her. For some reason, despite being fully lit, the old archives felt terrifying. Was it because of the aging walls and substructure around her, which looked so old-fashioned and creepy compared to the white marble cleanness of the entrance hall? Or maybe it was a feeling that there was always something waiting around the corner. The mare had yet to see anything unusual here, but she had a feeling that something was bound to happen. She treaded lightly down the winding hallway of archives, every now and again seeing a mouse scurry across the stony floor. Some pony obviously hasn't been cleaning this place, the mare noted. There were many doors that she passed while walking, most of which were stuck shut, and others led to empty rooms. After the fourth turn in the hallway, and the 12th door she passed, her patience was wearing thin. How long would this go on? She wasn't getting any younger. And another thing, how come she hasn't even seen any ponies since waking up? This place really must be deserted. Just as she was approaching the next door on her left, which would, incidentally, be the 13th one, the unicorn heard a familiar sound, the loud whooshing and swooshing of wind gusts. On first hearing it, the wind sounded distant, muffled almost. And then, another second later, the door to her immediate left flung wide open. A pitched scream managed to work its way out of her lungs as she leapt back, echoing through the halls of the archives. Some pony was here. Here! Just now! Swung the door open with all his or her might. Her heart pounding through her chest, the mare darted her eyes to the now open entryway, and was forced to raise a confused eyebrow. The doorway, in the small room it led to, was empty. No pony was there, let alone a mouse. A large hole in the ceiling, exposing the room to the elements, was letting in outside air and leftover rain. It was all the wind once again. The wind, it seemed, may be the true horror of the night. A simple blast of air, a terror. Ha! The notion made her release a relieved and bemused chuckle. As if on cue, another blast of wind tore through the hallway. It escaped through the open doorway and out into the corridor. The force of the air managed to snuff out the torches, and everything became dark. The unicorn let out a frightened squeal as the bone-chilling air rushed through her mane and started to shiver. Cold. Now everything was just cold. And dark. Cold and dark. The two seemed to go so well together. She ground her teeth with anxiety as she processed the sudden shift in mood. Was this deliberate? A ploy to fool around with her instincts? If so, it was working. A clatter of something metallic distracted her attention. What was that? It sounded like it was coming from the room that just opened. Her curiosity soon returned, despite herself, and she slowly trod into the open room. For safety's sake, the unicorn closed the door behind her again. It wouldn't do any good if another wind gust came around, but it satisfied her rising paranoia for the moment. The room wasn't large, but the hole in the ceiling sure was. Runoff from the storm earlier was still pouring in and collecting in pools near the corner of the room, and a cold breeze was blowing throughout. A closet of some kind was nearby, pushed off to the dark corner of the room away from the gaping hole. At the far end of the room was what appeared to be a table. And lying dead center in the middle of the room was an old brass lantern. A lantern? What's this doing here? She could reasonably deduce that the metallic clang she heard was from the lantern falling during the wind gust. But still, a lantern. Something that lights up. The mare, feeling somewhat giddy at having found something to belie the darkness, walked to the lantern and picked it up in her mouth. Until an all too familiar whiteness filled her view. "Hello, Princess. You said you wanted to see me?" "That I did, my student. Do you see this?" "Ooh, is that a lantern?" "Yes. Well, a kind of lantern, yes. It's very special. It's not powered by normal magic." "Really? I thought all the regular lanterns were lit that way." "Once again, you're learning something new. This is a dragonfire lantern. It uses the essence of a dragon's flame as its fuel. It can help ward off special types of darkness. But isn't darkness just an absence of light? Are there special kinds? You see, Twilight, there are good sides and bad sides to magic. As I am the ruler of Equestria, I must be proficient in both forms. You, however, should never explore the bad side. Some bad magic is capable of creating darkness that can harm and corrupt the soul. This darkness is as thick as fog, and saps the energy from those in it. Normal unicorn magic can't dispel it." "So, this lantern can?" "All dragonfire is capable of dispelling darkness, and it is most useful in its crystallized form, which is what fuels this lantern. Dragonfire is actually quite tepid to the touch, wouldn't you know? Would you like a demonstration?" "Would I ever? Yes, please, that would be great." "All right, now pay attention, Twilight." The white faded away again, the voices following after. It was just two voices this time, but they were also present during the previous vision. A princess, which must have been this Princess Celestia from before, and another named Twilight. Goodness, why'd that name sound so familiar? Twilight. And why was the voice that used that name so uncannily her own? What was the meaning of this? Could it be that... Was that... a me? She turned to look down at the lantern, and spent a moment observing it. Perhaps the lantern was what was being spoken of by these voices. Was this one? Dragonfire lantern? The mare went back to picking up the lamp by the handle, and set it upright on the floor. Feeling experimental, she gave a little key on the side a twist. Instantly, a red light erupted from inside the tempered glass casing. The light slowly grew brighter before me, finally coalescing into a vibrant green flame which cast a warm, luminous glow over the room. Somehow, the light felt oddly comforting. The stress she was feeling seemed to just melt away. Picking up the lantern again in her mouth, the mare caught something glinting on the table. The light from the lantern was reflecting off of a small grouping of tiny red crystals. Almost adjacent to them were small, frail, pink petals. The unicorn approached the table at the end of the room slowly, her eyes fixated on a grouping of petals resting so delicately on the table. To her surprise, some of the petals appeared to still be attached to a still fresh plant stem. Could it be? Could these be the source of the petals? If so, then what does it mean? That's when she also noticed the written note lying nearby, a quill lying beside it, the ends spotted with long dried ink. She was still unsure of the note's origins, but decided that perhaps there may be something interesting written down. Setting the lantern onto the table, casting an ample amount of reading light, she got on her haunches and started to read. Twilight. There's not much time. After I eat these petals, I will, in all probability, forget everything. I don't know how much you will remember, or if you remember anything at all, but I decided that a fail-safe would be needed regardless. You need to trust me. You may think of this note as nothing more than rambling of a mare gone crazy, but please hear me out. Listen to my instructions carefully. I, or rather you, have a job to do. I made the mistake of meeting a pony by the name of Alexander. By Celestia's tiara, I pray that name fills you with fury as it does me now. Xander. He tricked me into doing unspeakable acts. All because he had a puppeteer's control over me. But no longer. Do not concern yourself with what I did. Focus on what you need to do. I need you to... I don't want to say it, but it's the only way. Destroy him. Kill Alexander. Show no mercy upon that twisted equine's soul. Though I too deserve punishment, and losing the memories of all that I hold dear won't even be enough, do not fret about what sins I committed. Xander is dangerous. He's the ringmaster. Destroy him, and everything will become right again. I still have no clue as to his motives, so I'm forced to assume he did it because of his nature, to hurt others. Find the old colt, and snuff him out. My friends, your friends, are in terrible danger. It may even be too late now, but I will try and retain what optimism I can muster. Xander seeks all of them. Rainbow Dash, Fluttershy, Rarity, Applejack, and Pinkie Pie. Even if the names may sound unfamiliar to you, they are your friends. They are your fellow elements of harmony. It's because of this that Xander deceived me. He secretly needed to get a hold of their power, and he offered me a interesting proposition. It seemed legitimate at the time, but there is no time for lamenting. If you can, save them. Please. That's all I ask. The princesses are both gone. Xander used the elements to banish them somewhere, and I can't say for certain where they are. Maybe beating Xander will bring them back. Maybe. I don't know. Save us both, Twilight. Atone for your sins, and we will be free. Your former self, Twilight. The unicorn stared in disbelief at the note. Of all the things she could have expected, this was not the one of them. A note? To herself, apparently. There was so much information to take in, but was it all true? And the name of the intended recipient and the writer were the same. The petals, the same kind of petals that were at her hooves when she woke up. Did this mean... My name is Twilight? As she came upon that realization, it all made sense. The voices from her earlier flashback, the same names used by the note in the visions. It was all coming together. She was Twilight. She had written this note. Finally, she could remember her name. And yet, that was all Twilight remembered. The names of her friends suddenly felt more important than ever, but she still had no clue who they were. The note right off the bat said something about forgetting everything. She looked at the tender little petals attached to the stems and wondered, did those petals make me? All of a sudden, her ears picked up a sound. It wasn't wind or a metallic clatter. It wasn't even that creepy roar from earlier. And it certainly wasn't a door slamming shut. It was a door opening.